Okay, we're live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, of a very special guest, returning guest. If you've listened to my show, you will know his name. His name is Matthew Ehret. He operates the Canadian Patriot. I'll bring up his website in a second, but this will be our third episode. We did one back in 2022 where we covered transhumanism
Right.
and transhumanists and a little bit of Canadian kind of esoteric history. And then I had him back on in 2025. We covered Musk and Teal, still important information. So I'll try to put links. If I remember, I will put links in the show notes so you can click through
I
and
always
listen.
I always say that when I'm introducing a guest to on one of my shows, and I never remember to do it.
I'm
Like,
lucky to get it 25% of the time because usually I have to run off when I'm done with the show.
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I've had his wife on too. Her name is Cynthia Chung, Chung, and she published a book. I think it was a couple years ago. Full title of that book is The Empire on Which the Black Sun Never Set: The Birth of International Fascism and Anglo-American Foreign Policy. Great book. I read that with great interest. Matt also published a trilogy of books that kind of cover some of the stuff that I've researched. So, like some of the names are familiar, Varek and some of these other characters around Crowley, but also on associated with Canadian Patriot for people who don't know. And I'll put a link to his website. Are two people I've had on my show a lot of time. Well, the Collins brothers are kind of like stalwarts in the alternative media. They were on Visigoth's shows way back in the day, 20, 25 years ago. I've republished those as somebody who's really Visigoth's or Keith Hansen's archivist. His widow gave me permission to republish. He's got hundreds and he literally has 1,000 episodes of stuff with a lot of really great. I think they're still pertinent, still relevant, still evergreen. And the Collins brothers are just one of those guests, but they've also written, I don't know, maybe it's on a 6 or 8 part series on disclosure and this kind of fake
Yeah,
disclosure.
deception through
This
disclosure. It's a
exactly.
fantastic series that's ongoing. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I've been
people check
publishing
them.
it. Yeah, it's so good.
They're great. So I've had them on many, many times. And they're also on the Canadian Patriot, and also David Gosselin. I'd like to mention, who I've done maybe 3 or 4 episodes, but we recently did one on another great movie about Edgar Allan Poe, and that title is Final Mystery: A Tale of Two Murders.
Mm.
Another person kind of blowing the dust off of Poe. People don't talk enough about, but also kind of his life. So check those out. Check out those links. But going back to this, he published a book on, at least on Amazon. There's a book, but also a video which I saw, and they have similar titles. They're a little bit different. But if you're watching this on one of my YouTube channels, X, Rumble, or Substack, you'll see the title to the video, which is excellent. I highly recommend it. There's a lot of information there I didn't know. Full title of the video is Black Sun Rising: The Esoteric Roots of Fascism, Past and Present. And then I think the book is the same kind of similar,
Mhm.
which is I have it
Yeah,
right
it's
here.
pretty much esoteric Nazism, past and present for the book. I think.
Past and present for the book. Okay, so there's just a
It was
subtle.
we were having trouble with the N word on YouTube and a few other platforms we were thinking about putting it out on. Eventually, it's currently only available on our Substack and on a new platform tied to TotaQ. So we will eventually make it public for free. Right now, we have it behind a paywall for a couple of months on those platforms, just
Okay,
to try to recoup some of our financial, get out of the black a little bit there.
understood.
Sorry, get out of the red
What,
into the
what
black.
what's the name of the new format under two to know? Because I
It's
know you
brand
use that.
new. Yeah, it's so new, and it's so new that I'm actually forgetting. I'm gonna pull it up here in a second. It's a contact of ours named Hassan, who has launched he runs TotaQ, and he set up that's it at Lux at Lux is the name of the new streaming platform that
So
people
it's
can
just as hard to pronounce as to know to Ota or whatever. So at least they're keeping in like a pure form of hard to pronounce words.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, Matt, welcome back to the show. Hope you've been well. I know
Hey,
you've been busy, so
yeah, thank you, William, so much for that great intro. And any, the I think the thing that warmed my heart the most was when you said that after watching our documentary, you of all people learned something new. And for me, that's just the biggest success when I can get like a quality of researcher as you are, who's like immersed so much of your attention into this, and then to still be able to provide something fresh I was very happy to hear that. So I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I didn't know much about the Reich's Bible. There were some of these names, and so, like we were talking in the pre-show, this guy who popped up you talked about
Right.
was Gerard and Kossa, which overlaps into my recent reading about Rasputin and the Russian Revolution. I see a lot of kind of destabilization things that happen in Russia over decades that are kind of happening in the U.S. So I'm trying to draw some parallels there, and it just shows kind of this other stuff that you focused on, this occultism that influences political events. And I think that in my take is Rasputin knew a lot of kind of esoteric stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I think it's interesting too to see these guys, Hitler and Crowley. And Crowley famously said about Hitler, before Hitler was I am. After World War II, he said that, which references the thing Christ said in front of the Sanhedrin. He said that in an article that was published in Time magazine, which is very profound because
Hmm.
they're similar in outlooks. They both believe in aeonic change. And actually, I'm actually pleasantly surprised that I'm featured. So I appreciate that. Thanks for having me in your documentary. I do have a quote on that, but I did some research
Yeah.
for it in my book, Children of the Beast. But yeah, there's a lot there. But I mean,
Well, yeah,
maybe
that's right. Yeah, and I forgot. I totally forgot to just point that out to your audience. That's right. For those who don't know, you will hear a certain voice that you might uh, find familiar in the course of watching our documentary, and that is William's voice directly as he's speaking from his own book that I used in a portion of the research for the high priesthood, because I mean we are looking at the esoteric black magicians in the Thule Society and in the Ananelba, who are at the inner sort of religious core of this institution called Nazism and fascism more broadly. And so, yeah, your work on Crowley was key on that, and I just found that that was just a very poignant quote that said so much that we had to just insert into the documentary to make the point that these guys wanted a religion of the state. They wanted ultimately, they weren't this Christian organization the way a lot of those who are trying to rehabilitate the image of Hitler today are trying to portray Hitler as this great anti-Jewish or international banker, nationalist, Christian, and no, it's nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort. He was a complete pagan black magician run by black magicians, very much tied, not even like metaphorically, but directly to Aleister Crowley on so many points of direct contact. It's mind blowing.
it really is. There's a lot of people there. The Varek, one of the Varek sons, I think, fought for the Germans.
Oh yeah.
And there's this guy Uvers who was friends with Crowley in the U.S. And you mentioned Spence's great book, The B666, or was it Secret Agent 666?
Yeah.
But all these things are all verified, like the connections and overlaps and stuff like that between, and the ideological overlaps are also very stark if you really looked
Mhm.
into it. And that quote you put of mine in that book is really just showing that is aeonic, is just basically synonymous with 1,000 Year Reich. It's the same thing. So these guys are trying to make, millennial change or whatever. And
Yeah.
that's one of the interesting things about Crowley is that a lot of people see him as they always use the word dabbler, but a lot of his ideas were supposed to be politically put into place. They were supposed to be actively acted upon. And he's a lot in a weird way like Epstein, where he's just involved in correspondence constantly. Like his correspondence is just stunning, the amount. And a
I
lot of
mean,
correspondence with a guy you feature in JFC Fuller.
oh yeah, yeah, right, yeah. I'm a JFC Fuller, right? Like the fact that this guy, it was only kind of recently. I forget how I came to be aware of this guy, but yeah, like this is the innovator, a major of the British military who was the innovator, the creator of Blitzkrieg, the Blitzkrieg tactic itself, which was rejected at the time by the general staff of England at the time. Of course, this is like he's World War One period here, right? But he's a Crowleyite. It was only accepted by the Germans and then really, really embraced by the Nazis when they came to power a little bit later on. But this guy's a major, major influence on thinking, both in terms of his work on tactics, which is still taught in West Point and military colleges all around the Western world. And also as a military historian, Churchill, who is supposed to be this anti-fascist, leader of England, supposedly the enemy of Sir Oswald Mosley, the British Führer, was one of the biggest protectors of JFC Fuller, and actually went out of his way to promote JFC Fuller's take on the causes of World War II as a historian in 1945. Like, he got in there early, even before Churchill started pumping out his own whitewashed garbage, which probably was written by a team. I don't even think these things are written necessarily by the guy who they're attributed to. That's my guess, at least. But like, he was not only the head of the Argentum Astrum order that Crowley set up in 1907, which is a big year, and continued to run it for quite some time until some of Crowley's like gay sex magic became a little bit too politically incorrect for polite British high society. So he had to kind of like at least keep Crowley on a bit of a distance, but always maintain a correspondence and devotion and practice, and became like the right hand man for Oswald Mosley. He would have been the defense minister if under a Mosley government, had Mosley taken full power, as was one of the scenarios that nearly came into reality in the 1930s and into in the 30s. And he was the back channel between Crowley directly and the inner core of the SS. He was in direct communications with a lot of the people around Himmler and first degree contacts with the Hitler high command. So yeah, he was bringing in, as Crowley openly said, he wanted Thelema. He found that the machinery of what the Nazis had created was the most perfect instrument to be the conduit for his Thelema in a political application. And he wasn't messing around. He knew that was true because he helped build it.
Right. Which is another synonymous word with will, right? Thelema means will in Greek. So you see this triumph of the will theme and willpower that are both Hitler and Crowley employed. One of the interesting things about JFC Fuller, for people who don't know, he's one of two British guys who were invited to Hitler's 50th birthday party. And so he traveled to Berlin. And even the Wikipedia page has a very interesting thing where they talk to one another. So JFC Fuller said, for 3 hours, a completely mechanized and motorized army roared past the Führer. Afterward, Hitler asked to Fuller, I hope you were pleased with your children. And Fuller replied, Your Excellency, they have grown up so quickly that I no longer recognize them. Whoa. That's, I think, 38 or 39. So, like, it's really great. Yeah, and there's like...
And who do you think he's referring to? Like, the children, do you think he means his literal children? Or is he speaking something much more? Okay.
I think the tank warfare. Guderian, I think you write in your book, Guderian translated from English into German JFC Fuller's tactic book, right? I think maybe you wrote that or somebody else did.
I think it might have come up as an image that our video guy, and I hats off to Jason Dahl, by the way. So Cynthia and I wrote the script and helped produce, but none of these videos would be possible were it not for Jason Dahl, who is just this genius filmmaker that we've been collaborating with for some years, who, I mean, a lot of the visuals, a lot of the choices for how to, express these very abstract ideas in this documentary were the insights from Jason Dahl, who, again, like, just most incredible film producer, but also he does his own original research too. So it's nice to have somebody who actually has discernment and judgment and technical skills for artistry when it comes to making films like this. It's a big gift.
It looks great and it sounds great. Like, the technical aspects are really good. So I commend you guys. The date of Hitler's birthday was April 20th, 1939. That's when that exchange took place. But,
really?
Fuller wrote books on Kabbalah, yoga, all kinds of stuff. So he was a lot different. I have a picture of him with the king. I think it was King Edward sometime in 1919. So he's a big time player. I was shocked to find in your documentary. One of the interesting aspects is that I was just shocked to find Mosley's grandsons working for Palantir in the UK.
Yes,
wow.
Not even working for, right? Like CEO of Palantir UK. Yeah, that was a shock to me too. We'd actually discovered that. I just stumbled on that one while I was writing the script, and we just had to fold it in. But that was another thing too, right? The amount of second, third generation, high level spawn of this occult Nazi operation who are currently in positions of major power across the transatlantic world today is very jarring. it's part of the reason why we felt the need to do this film, because when you look to the director of MI6, Mitravelli, and what her grandpa was up to as the butcher of Ukraine, as a top SS operative and spy in Ukraine, who was just a prolific butcher. Like, he lived into the name very, very well. So the fact that she's been positioned of all people in the world to run MI6, and there's a number of people that I didn't even mention. There's whole backstories of Ursula von der Leyen, of our own Chrystia Freeland in Canada, and what her grandparents were doing. But there's so many people positioned in these very influential areas, affecting so much of our lives, that it's really important to think about, like, well, why? Why is this? Is it a coincidence, or is perhaps some nudging, some psychological shamanic, playing around here with the zeitgeist to try to do it again? And clearly I do think, and I think you've noticed that too, right? That
Yes.
yeah.
I think it's an important part of your title, present. This is not some kind of dusty old history.
Yeah.
It really is present. If Mosley's grandson is right there, Palantir, where there's been allegations that Teal, who we did that show on before, has been spying on all major leaders globally. So, like, what the heck is going on? If they're spying on all people's phones and all their information, this is really incredible.
Yeah. And on that note, have you looked into, because I've been having a difficult time finding Peter Thiel's family background. It's been easier to look into Elon Musk's parents and grandparents, but for Peter Thiel, I found it a lot more difficult. But there's all sorts of red alarms pertaining to what I've noted in a very, very brief way exists for the public researchers out there like us, as far as his father being a high-level player in industrial mining of uranium in South Africa. He was born in Germany. But I don't know. It was very opaque and hard to piece out. So did you find anything that's of use on that front? No?
Just the same thing. I heard that he was in South Africa. His dad was an executive, and he went to a very right-wing high school, private school, is my understanding.
Right.
But other than that, I don't know much else. So if you find anything, let me know, or publish it at the Canadian Patriot. I'd be fascinated. He's such an important figure. He's everywhere, Bilderberger, and all over this the United States. Now he's moving, I think, to Argentina. Tried to get a Maltese passport, and that's a theme in your book of the Knights of Malta. I've done a bunch of shows on that. All these guys are Knights of Malta. Himmler, and what was the guy who managed the intel for Eastern Europe for the Nazis? He was also a Knight of Malta.
Oh, you're talking about Galen?
Galen, yeah. So
yeah. Well, and the Knights of Malta, it seems like, because there are these different lineages. They're all rooted in the original chivalric, I would say, occult order that was created to oversee all of the Crusades, but it was created at the wake of the First Crusade. A lot of it got sort of merged into the Templars, who are their nominal rivals, but I think on the esoteric inner core, they were always playing a left-hand, right-hand path, as these things always tend to work out with the same formula. But so it seems like today, when you look at a lot of the players in the stories, both in terms of the rise of Germany and what is the chivalric carryovers, you both have a Templar as well as a Malta pedigree. So many of these figures are sometimes one, sometimes the other, sometimes they're both. So we know that Himmler was a Templar. He even created his own Templar order that was an offshoot of something that had existed, that was created in the 1860s, 1861 in Germany by the Templar revivalists, who were like all part of the Wagnerian clique, who wanted to sort of revive the mystery play, the ancient Volk spirit of pure paganism that was untainted by the evil Christianity. That, I mean, they're making a lot of this stuff up because they've mythologized what the Nordic Aryan Teutonic pure forest races were, that embody the psychological dream, the psychological collective unconsciousness that they want to revive and break free of its formalistic Christian veneer and inhibiting moralizing structures. They want to like liberate their people from that, or at least that's part of the ritual that they've been trying to bring into play. But it was started in the 1860s, and then you had like reiterations of this new Templar thing into the by leading members of the Theosophists, who then gave it their own Germanic spin. That we bring up a few of them. Cynthia did some great work on Guido von List and Lanz von Liebenfels, which we incorporated into the book and into the movie. And then Himmler just sort of like took that, ran with it, amplified it. But then so you have the Order of Malta, which you then see infused in parallel, especially in the 40s and 50s, by pretty much every leading figure of American intelligence. Allen Dulles, I think every single member of the CIA or director of the CIA from its creation were initiates of the Order of Malta. But they're not always part of the same order as well, right? Like, though they have the same roots, some of them come out of the Russian lineage, which the Order of Malta was sort of incubating for a period during the Napoleonic Wars, just like the Jesuits were in St. Petersburg. I think that was their headquarters when Napoleon took over Malta for a bit. They left, went to St. Petersburg in 1798 and they stayed there. They enjoyed different degrees of influence depending upon which czar happened to be in power. That some of the czars were very antagonistic to them. Other ones were really into it, like Tsar Paul II, I think, was the one who invited them in, was made Grand Master until he was killed. But so you have a Russian lineage that grew out of a lot of the white Russians that got kicked out of Russia after the revolution, but that ended up working. They were always part of this black nobility of the magician class that they were always interfacing with in France, in Germany, in England especially. And that's what gave rise to things like the Russian Nazi Party that had its home base in Harbin, and when it was set up in 1933. And you got these weird flags that people could even see today, right? They're Russian monarchists, but they're incorporating the swastika. They're maybe a little bit uncomfortable by some of the the wording of like that Hitler's using in Mein Kampf to try to like characterize the entire Slavic people as like an Untermenschen. And they would rather that not be there, but they're very happy to overlook that in their hopes to try to create this Russian Germanic alliance based on their common, pure pagan Viking origins under Rurik and shit that these guys all situate as their sort of inner religious core. And so they spawned the Knights of the Order of St. John Russian lineage that then gets infused into Germany. It gets infused into the United States. So a lot of the key Maltese players who participate in the murder of John F. Kennedy, and you look into it, they're everywhere. Right. They're actually coming out of this Russian lineage grouping. Wow. Yeah.
They say Shaw was a member of the Knights of Malta. I haven't been able to confirm that, but he did have very pronounced military ties to, I can't remember the general's name, but it was the guy who oversaw, I think it was Operation Overlord, which is the invasion in June of 45, right? 44, sorry. Mm. So like he's right there. He's right there at the JFK assassination, like Dulles and all these other characters. It's really extraordinary. It's often overlooked in the JFK assassination. I also want to talk to you about what's that organization that supposedly financed the JFK? Permindex. Like It feels like Permindex was like a really important thing about like the black budgets and all this other stuff. All these international characters financing wet works all over the world, including JFK. It's a really wild story. Because I know you've done a show on that. That's another line of inquiry. It's not in this book, but it's really important.
Well, I'm just looking at it as you're speaking. I was just Googling, was Louis Mortimer Bloomfield a member of the Knight of St. John? And yep, of course he was. And that's of the lineage that was set up in 1888. So that's that's another lineage, right? That does seem to dovetail. I mean, they all kind of like play into each other, right? And they're
sure. You have pictures of the Rothschilds with the Maltese cross prominently displayed. Can't remember which Rothschild it was, Amschel or someone. Yeah, just right there. Like he wanted that. portrait taken and painted of him with that cross on.
Yes. Yeah. And there's degrees, right? Of within these orders too. They're not like once you're a member, you're a member. It has a Masonic quality to it as well. And I think the vast majority of members, whether they know it or not, are ultimately disposable to some degree at the end of the day. If there's a higher game, and goal that they must be sacrificed to advance towards, and ideally, I suppose they should want to, or they should, be willing. That's the best kind of sacrifice for these occultists, is when you're like willing to be eliminated. Which
it ties into Bannon. One of Bannon's guys is Burke, who's a Knight of Malta, and they make these. And then he started that Humanitas Dignitae or whatever group. It's kind of Catholic inspired thing.
Oh, the Cardinal Burke.
Cardinal Burke, sorry, thank you.
Oh, but yeah.
He's been if you talk to Masonry, it just triggered in my brain. Like, these guys make these Masonic hand gestures that Crowley makes, and Savile, who was a Knight of Malta too. So like, it's all there.
Yeah, no, these damn chivalric orders. They're I know what you're saying. Well, this guy Burke is he's part of like this network that is tied to I guess their patronage seems to come a little bit more from the Thulin and Taxis family. So there are these leading Habsburg family oligarchs who didn't really disappear after the Habsburg Empire was dissolved after World War I. They continued to exert vast influence, enjoy vast power and positions, and they're just kind of like waiting for the restoration. Oh yeah, there he is. Yeah.
Patron Emeritus of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. That's a hand gesture. That's a Masonic hand gesture, guys.
Sure, yeah.
And this is recent. He retired in 2023, but he's appointed in 2014. But this guy's associated with Bannon, who's associated with Epstein. I mean, it's unbelievable stuff.
And if this confuses people, so some people may be, I guess, a little bit confused because of the name changes. So just to clarify the definition, just so everyone is aware, when we say Sovereign Order of Malta, and then sometimes we'll also say the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, it's the same thing. It's just that in 1530, the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, otherwise known, also a third name, right, just to make it more confusing, is the Knights Hospitaller, the Hospitaller Knights of St. John of Jerusalem, which have sort of St. John as their patron saint.
John the Baptist,
John the Baptist, and the Order of Templars had not the Virgin Mary, sorry, Mary Magdalene is their sort of patron saint. They all have a patron saint that has probably, I think, it seems they have like two meanings for the adepts and for the uninitiated, where on the surface you have like Mary Magdalene as this virtuous, devoted follower of Jesus. On the other one, you have the Mary as the Black Madonna, the Gaia, Luna Diana, Circe witch, incarnation of the sacred feminine, which is usually a sexualized sacred feminine idea that they will then say, oh, the inner initiates, they know what she really represents. But if you don't, you think that she's just, a purveyor of the public esoteric or exoteric gospel of Jesus or something. Same thing for the John thing. I think that a lot of these guys are, the Knights of Malta and stuff, when they talk about John the Baptist as their patron saint, I think it's actually they are maintaining. Oh yeah, there you go. That's one of the Amschel's grandson or something from the 1830s with his Knight of Malta cross. But what they're saying, I think, is that for those in the know, they're Johannites, so they're followers of the secret gospel, the secret apocryphon of John, the secret writings of the secret John of the Sethian gospels, the Nag Hammadi gospels as they've come to be known, the Gnostics, right, which portray Jesus, John and Mary Magdalene as the high initiated favorites of the Sethian Jesus, the Luciferian spirit of that kind of Jesus that has no moral lessons to give whatsoever except secret teachings. Right. And it's always very clear that those two disciples in those Gnostic gospels are his favorites, who receive a different verbal Kabbalistic type of teaching that is also encoded in a lot of the Hermetic inspired scriptures that they're imbued in, creating for their followers. And there's Galen with his regalia.
Post-war, so 1948.
Yeah.
He's hanging out with Dulles. He actually came to the United States, guys. There's pictures of him like walking around the U.S. with a camera taking pictures. So it's unbelievable.
Shameless, eh? Just totally shameless.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are still around. This girl, Lena Haba, her dad is a bigwig in the Knights of Malta, and she's literally at the right hand of President Trump. She's basically like almost like a legal fact totem.
What's her name? Lena what?
Lena Haba, Habba. Her daddy is a bigwig. Here she is. I'll show you a picture of her.
Yeah, please.
This is a video of her. Let me see. Stop. See if I can get this to actually play. But here she is in red, of course.
Of course, that's her, eh?
Yeah.
And she's highly positioned. What's her role in the?
Well, she was an attorney, and then I think she worked as. That's Kash Patel right there on the right.
Yeah.
She is an attorney, and I don't know what her current role is now, but she definitely was a private attorney for Trump at one time. But her daddy is a bigwig. I don't know. It's Alina, Alina.
Yeah, got her here. Yeah, Alina Haba, senior advisor to the Attorney General for the U.S. attorneys. Assumed office in December 2025. Yeah. I don't know what she was before. Oh, before that, she's counselor to the president for 4 months before that. Yeah, interesting, eh? Yeah, so
she's bounced around. And here's her daddy right from the website. You can go there. And this is a governance of the sub-priory of Lady of Lords. So it's the woman's side, I guess, of the Order of Malta, American. This is legit. There's all kinds of fake heraldry stuff, but this is actually the real one. And you'll see down there, Chancellor Saad F. Hava.
I found it always interesting that for whenever you're dealing with like a lot of these occult agencies that have like an openness to females, whether it's witch covens or whether it's these things that may be the same thing, frankly, you tend to have on the one hand the image of like female empowerment because we have dames of the Sovereign Order of Malta, and we've got dames and women empowerment in positions of influence and power. But then if you look at the governing structures, there are always guys there's always the warlock managing the coven, or in this case, I was just looking at the other executives who are like managing this female branch of the Order of Malta, and they're all guys. It's pretty funny.
Right. Here's the other thing at Teal. This, I don't know what article this is from. It's about Strauss because Teal wrote, I think, either his thesis in college or something about Strauss. But this one says, whether or not this essay contributed to Teal's rise to the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group or his initiation into the Crusader Knights of Malta remains to be seen. So
that one was from my article.
That's you. Okay, great.
Yeah. But we chatted about this one after, because you had asked me some questions about that months and months ago, and I said that I was over. I couldn't prove that point exactly because it was merely that he had sought to become a citizen of Malta, and I couldn't prove that he was an initiate. Right. So at that point, I got to separate myself from the firmness or the absolutism in my language. Though I wouldn't be surprised, since he does have an overarching, crusader ethos at the end of the day.
He wants citizenship there, so it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
You just don't have the proof. It's a secret membership, guys. They don't divulge their membership list. You have to go someplace and find it. Kind of like the Pilgrim Society, which people have went to some library in London and got it. And we're surprised to find Tucker Carlson right there.
Oh yeah. What about this? What's James Earl Carter Jr. doing here with the Holy Sepulchre? What's up with this?
Right. So when he passed away, he was 100 years old, guys. Incredible life. And this was the thing that they put out for the burial notification. Was this which features in your book, right? So this is the Knights of Jerusalem cross that's on Pete Hegseth's upper right-hand chest. But this is from the ceremony that took place last year, January 9th.
Wow. That's what they found to be the emblem that encapsulated his life the most, eh? Wow, that's something.
Pretty wild, huh?
Well, so yeah, right. Yeah, and that's exactly the Order of the Holy Sepulchre is one of those chivalric orders co-created the same year as the Order of Hospitallers in 1098 to oversee pretty much the Middle East and manage it, and specifically this mythologized church of the Holy Sepulchre that was raised and then rebuilt in about a century earlier, and was the area where I highly doubt this to be a fact, but this is the popular myth that this is the specific location that Jesus died on the hill, and that the true cross or whatever wooden shards are remnants that have been found over the centuries that somehow are proven to be the true cross that he died on are located in the Holy Sepulchre. So it's kind of like a mecca for a lot of Christians. Again, I kind of doubt it. Oh yeah, right. Cavalry. Yeah, that's the location that it's located on. And
there's a lot of things happening just under one church roof here in this one.
Alleged site of Christ's tomb. Again, they always say alleged because none of this stuff is really proven. The Rock of Golgotha, they say, is definitely buried under there too. Promise. Yeah. And that was used as the excuse to spark the Crusades. Right. That was like one of the big things was we got to get, the church is under threat. The Saracens that are running the place don't respect it. They're persecuting the Christians around it. And so we got to go in and protect our people. It was kind of like the same kind of logic in some ways that Hitler was using or Goebbels was using to promote to the fellow Germans why we need to go on a new crusade of Operation, what was it? Take over Europe and destroy Russia. Barbarossa was like the Germans, our German civilians, our brethren, our Völkisch kin are getting persecuted by the Austrians. They're getting persecuted by the Poles. And we have to go in there not to invade, not to do anything bad. We just need to protect our people. And if that means war, then so be it. And, then once you get people bobbing their heads and walking in lockstep, then the steps can get more goosey over time. And before you know it, you got a crusade. And then you can't really put that genie back in the bottle so much. So the Holy Sepulchre was definitely useful for that formula to get launched, and it took centuries. In some ways, it never fully went away.
Right,
and that's what
they've been. You start your book off right there with the Crusades. It's very important. The past is present, man. There's no.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, and I mean that was the whole neocon thing was set up for it, right? And even like Virek, one of his sons, I didn't know about the son who fought with the Nazis, but the Nazis also called it Operation Barbarossa as far as the Northern Crusade that the Teutonic Knights were originally deployed to do. To destroy the early Russian Empire, and back in like the 12th or 13th century, and that's where the Germans got the name based on the Teutonic Crusades of the North, and Virek's one son apparently. I gotta, if you could send me information on that, that would be fascinating. Who fought for the Nazis? That would be very interesting. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure one fought for the Allies and one fought for the Nazis and died in Italy.
Wow,
is my memory
bloody amazing?
Which isn't that great these days? I think that's what it said. Well,
the other side of that was that Peter Virek, who's the more American patriot Virek, is known as the founder of, or one of the founding fathers of neoconservatism.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Christopher Hitchens made that point that the modern neoconservatism that became the skin suit for the Templar revival during the Cold War. That was like a very concentrated thing. Was that would be the skin suit that the new the obsession with alchemically transforming Christianity to become a millennialist Darbyite cult obsessed with revelations and apocalypses and maybe even helping that along to satisfy God's will to create some eschatological cataclysm based on reviving the Crusades. That was made possible by Peter Virek.
Because I've seen his name pop up here and there. It's a small world, man. It's really something else.
Yeah.
And the Haba, there's like pictures of this Haba girl with Tate who's in the news today. They're chatting. She's around. I mean, it's amazing that these Knights of Malta people are. So there, somebody in the comments said, or the chat said, that we're criticizing the Knights of Malta. They do good works. They are a group of good works. At the top, it's different, but they have they're involved in a huge amount of countries. They have healthcare. I think they go to places where there are earthquakes. So it is a charitable group, but it does
That's like
have
a
some.
yeah,
It
it's
has
like the
some
red.
really interesting,
Yeah.
questionable characters. I mean,
It's
we
like the
get
Shriners or the Red Cross. You're like, you
yeah.
wouldn't disparage the good works that they do, but at the same time, be aware that the Red Cross and the Shriners have an inner esoteric core that makes a lot of the problems that they then try to clean up after the fact and pass themselves off as good guys. Or people getting Rockefeller Foundation grants doing good philanthropic things, to protect children from child traffickers, and they're getting grants from the Rockefellers who seem to care about child trafficking. But it's like, well, yeah, kind of. I wouldn't disparage the good people who are trying to honestly do the thing with some money that they get from the Rockefellers. But don't ignore the fact that at the end of the day, the problem exists because of things that the Rockefellers are initiating and enforcing from the top down. So it's a esoteric game.
The Knights of Malta had Jimmy Savile as a member, guys. Just FYI, this guy is notorious and overlaps with kind of like somebody maybe on the surface looks like an upstanding citizen or whatever, but his hidden life was as dark as it gets, guys. Super, super dark.
Yeah.
It's just, and one of the other interesting, there was this whole thing that came out when Trump made it into the office. It was that Agenda 2025 by the conservative group. What was it called? Do you remember that?
Oh,
But
it
the
was
guy,
called. It
what's
was
that?
called. I thought it was called Agenda 20.
I think it was.
25.
The guy who runs that is both a Knight of Malta, and he is a Knight of the Holy Sepulchre.
Oh, two, really?
Yeah, so he's got the double whammy. And
Wow.
so like this is something that the agenda that was supposed to be implemented by Trump, by the conservatives when they came into power. I don't know how successful they've been, but like the guy's name who I wish I could remember right now, but like he had that pedigree. He has this ancient order pedigree that you talk about in your books that leads up, and I mean, pretty close to the definition of fascist, what these guys' mentality is. Like, I mean, I know there's different definitions of fascist, but a lot of these Maltese Knight people are anti-communist, definitely anti-left, I would say is fair to say. And like straight up, I think they fit the definition of fascism. I think it's fair to say that.
Well, do we have like can we come up with like a definition of fascism that actually doesn't suck like that? Is there like is there like a universal character to all of those different flavors of the thing that get the label fascism that we can all agree is like, okay, that's it.
I think that everybody should say that it's the fusing of state power for nefarious ends, maybe. Because I think when the left say fascism, they're right. They're thinking like boots and repression and racism and corporatism. And then I think when the right thinks fascism, they don't think about it positively, but I think they think about it more in the sense of like aggregation of corporate power and the state working with corporations, which even on the right, like libertarian ideas, it's not acceptable. So I think they're using the word in different things.
It's weird, right? Because then it's like abhorrent on the like for the libertarian right, that formula, but those who are professing themselves to be like Peter Thiel is professing himself to be an ideological libertarian. He ran the Stanford Libertarian Review. A lot of the neocons are professing themselves to support Austrian school libertarian, doctrines. That's what they do on the surface. But then at the same time, as they're saying that, they're stripping the state away from any constitutional sort of connection and giving over more and more decision making, policy making power to Palantir, to supranational banking entities, or what have you, right? That are tied to Silicon Valley tech godmen that want to sort of govern the world. So it's not really there. It seems to be a bit of a decoy or a deflect.
But I think you could apply fascism to Trump in that he's so pro tech corporation that it's a new kind of techno fascism. I don't think that's a stretch.
Well, I'm tending to agree with you on that increasingly. The thing I've sort of come to as my invariant or universal attribute is the idea of a society run by an or governed by an ideology which assumes a master-slave structure of more than humans and less than humans, with the more than humans mandated to somehow control the transformation of human beings, or the manipulation of human beings, and the sacrifice of human beings, and what, into some form of new acceptable species or something. And anything, whether it masquerades as a capitalist or socialist or just calls itself fascist, whatever, or some monarchist, whatever the label is, if it has that underpinning, for me, it's like, okay, it's fascist,
Yeah,
might call itself techno monarchist or something, but it's ultimately gonna be fascist.
I think you're right. I think that's it. It's kind of the inhuman thing about fascism, where the state just grinds people under the boot. So I think the word, it's just, there's different interpretations. What the Heritage Foundation thing was Project 2025. That's it.
Oh
The
yeah,
guy-
yeah, right.
yeah,
And
the
there was
guy-
Agenda 47 was the other one. So yeah, it was Project 2025 was right.
And the guy's name, I'm trying to remember, but it's like he's full on, like, associated with all the stuff you talk about in your books. I'm trying to find I have the PDF of it somewhere, and I'm trying to find it. It's just not popping up in my searches. But
Hey, question: Was Eric Prince Knight of Malta? I feel
yes,
like he
yeah, I think
was,
so. Yeah,
or
I think
is.
he was.
Yeah.
I think I have pictures of him somewhere, or confirmed Knight of somewhere.
Yeah.
He talks about it. There's a video of him on Rumble talking about his Knight of Malta
Oh yeah.
membership, so you can find it there. Let me see if I can find that.
Yeah. Don't stress about it. But I will.
But it makes, like, in one of my presentations, I talk about him because he was so involved in the Iraq War, So, like, and a lot of these guys were Knight of Malta type people.
And he was a Green Beret first, or was he not a Green Beret? Did he just go straight into? 'Cause I know he's a military guy.
I don't know. I know they like shifted all this stuff, but
He's like,
he's an important figure. Here's one of the articles I've got about him. This is by Jeremy Scahill. He's a pretty well-known journalist.
I was looking at Prince actually was invited, they say here, to Russia in 2011 to build a Blackwater capability in Russia, where he trained and drank with, that's a weird way of wording it, the Alpha Group, the Special Forces unit of the FSB. Let's look at that. What is the Alpha Group? So I'm just doing, like, the first time I'm hearing about this particular thing. Alpha Group, known as Directorate A, is a subunit of the Russian Special Forces. So it's a subunit inserted into the Russian Special Forces. Oh, it sounds like a bit of a reverse virus here that Eric Prince inserted into an already problematic Russia. So the thing that it was inserted into is itself created in the 70s under Andropov's lead. The KGB chairman. Interesting stuff. Okay, all right. So a lot of threads to pull on here.
Right, but it all leads up to, like, present day stuff. That's what's really important, is that this isn't some kind of, like, ancient things. I guess I've made that point before, but it's like happening today. These people are around. The people with the ancient heraldry and attachments to these millennial old societies are around, and the Schwartz Sun is still used. Like, there was a really horrible shooting in San Diego within the last month of these two guys who went into a mosque and did bad things, and they had the Schwarzsonne on, and Atomwaffen, which is a group I wrote about, which is another esoteric Nazism, like, thread, and they were influenced by the Order of Nine Angles, which they believe that Hitler was like a avatar, like a deity or something. Super crazy. But they're also being funded by the FBI, right? Like Joshua Caleb Sutter.
was caught completely getting like $180,000 by the FBI to keep up his Temple of Blood operation with his Atomwaffen stuff.
Yeah, it all overlapped with the Order of Nine Angles and Atomwaffen. So he was definitely, and like it was kind of confirmed in these recent prosecutions of members of Atomwaffen that he was taking that money. That's where it got revealed. Because the guy was like, I don't think this should be fair because this guy's a freaking informant. But it shows how the network of the FBI pays for so much information. Like they literally are just bringing information in from all angles at all times, and that was one of them. Sutter was a long-term asset that they turned. Yeah, I think he had a silencer or something like that, so they brought him in, and that's when he started talking.
When was the Order of the Nine Angles created?
The original corpus started in the 80s, and it started pre-internet and little pamphlets, so like almost like 3-page pamphlets. And then they would grow out and they became books, Naos, and some of the core documents, all tied back to Myatt. And it kind of ties into your research into Aquino too, because in my book, for anybody who's interested, I mean, Matt goes in very great detail of Aquino, Vallely, Mind War, all this stuff. But there's a really interesting interchange between Myatt and Aquino, where Myatt's saying we're the authentic Satanists and Nazis. And we actually write in our documents, we kill people, where you do it, but you keep it hidden. And Aquino knows Myatt. So these early...
Can you say some more about Myatt, please? I didn't look into him.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. He came out of the far right in the UK. So back then it was called National Front. And it was kind of a movement that at one point they got like 15% of the vote in the UK. He was also part of something called Combat 88, which is associated with stay behind groups, or also known as Gladio groups. So he was in this environment. I do a chapter on his relationship to actual Nazis in the UK. For what's interesting, a lot of these guys got arrested or ended up in jail. Myatt never seemed to go to jail, which is a real tell for me. Like, what's going on here? It's kind of like the base, like the heads of the base, which is kind of like an Atomwaffen type group who never goes to jail, but his followers get arrested. Maybe interesting. But anyway, so Myatt grows up along this stuff. He writes a lot of his biographies. He's a very intelligent person if he's the one doing it. Like there's some, I think, valid questions about whether he's an intel construct, but he's clearly writing. I mean, he has a wealthy father. He's brought up in Singapore. He's got kind of an international pedigree. So he's not a provincial by any stretch of the imagination. He studies in York, so he's got a college. He's got some college under his skin, but he's also an autodidact. He reads a lot, and he passes through all these kind of things. He's definitely a Nazi. He loves Hitler. He like literally changed the kind of times and dates to the birth of Hitler. He calls it the year of rejoicing when Hitler was born in 1889. So instead of like you and I, the year is 2026, he would time everything from the birth of Hitler. So he's an atavistic, guys. There's other people out there, Savitri Devi and Guerrero from Chile, who revere Crowley, this black sun, as like a messiah almost, I think is fair. Anyway, so Myatt's putting this corpus...
Serrano, Miguel Serrano.
Serrano, okay. Did I say Guerrero?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I misspoke.
He's probably also there
might be another one.
But it's true, right? Like the continuity of the Nazi ideology through what appeared to be the underground Nazi movements that people were ignoring or treating like fringe or negligible extremist types that often have overlapped with the KKK, were always being incubated and curated by these high-level players like Serrano, who is friends with Carl Jung, and Savitri Devi, who is like Hitler's priestess in some ways. Like that's at least her reputation as this esoteric Hindu. I don't know if she was a Kali priestess, but I mean, she was a major holy figure in keeping this thing alive internationally that spawned the Julius Evola cult and everything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's her pen name. I think she had like she was a French
Oh yeah.
extraction,
Yeah. Yeah.
but her ashes came to the United States, kind of like Crowley. His
Yeah.
ashes are somewhere in Virginia, but
Really?
her ashes came to the United States under the care of the guy you feature in your book, which is the head of the American Nazi movement with the cornpipe.
Mm.
What was his name? It's
Yeah. Yeah. It's escaped me off.
but anyway, so
Yeah. Yeah.
their overlap. It's an international thing, much like Maya.
Rockwell.
Rockwell, yeah. So Rockwell had her ashes before he got shot in Northern Virginia by a disgruntled Nazi who called himself Sittler or something. Like he had some Hitler. And one of the things that's not kind of darkly amusing about the Nazi movements in the U.S. is everybody wants to be the next Hitler, so they jockey for position, and they end up fighting each other for
Yeah.
like the Führer position because it's not egalitarian at all. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's like so some of the other leaders have been shot by their own kind of party members too. It wasn't just Rockwell. But Myatt is interesting in the sense that he created this kind of non-centralized distributed movement based upon ideology. So you could actually, they have all kinds of terminology and words, almost like a cult, but basically you could adhere to it. And so the ideas of all these concepts that he seeded out and went into Atomwaffen and Suter, like you said, Temple of Blood. And so they had all these cells, basically, which they called Nexions. Nexion, I think it's Nexion, which is
Mm.
kind of like their idea of kind of like a maybe a communist cell, but also a spiritual cell, so that they're in contact with these dark gods. It's very Lovecraftian. You had
Mm.
21 dark gods that they presence. But
Mm.
the ideas of Myatt, or whoever he's a front for, really did disseminate all the way around and went into Atomwaffen, who were really violent. There was like a lot of deaths associated with them, and it led up to this most recent killing. Like I don't know how deep this guy was, but it actually these offshoots, the ideology morphed and changed. And actually, when I published my book in 2021, since then, there's been this 764 offshoot, which is an online Nazi like abuse cult where they abuse girls and boys and do horrible stuff. And there's been tons of arrests, but it goes back to this like dark black sun nihilism of Order of Nine Angles back to the Nazis, like literally to the Hitler Party. So you can see this acceleration and also the advancement and morphing. Like what really happened and brought the Order of Nine Angles to the public was the internet, because then all of the writings of Myatt were easily distributed and people could figure them out. And so a lot of some of these people, these kids, they're young, impressionable boys who are online on some of these threads or things like that. And so some of these people, they introduced them to ideas and things like that. So the head of Atomwaffen actually traveled to the UK and communicated with some guys. Like this is a known fact. His name was Russell. Last name was Russell. He ended up going to jail. He got out of jail. He went to jail for murders of some of his cohorts. So he didn't do it, but he was associated with it because he had these guns. He went to jail, got out, and then he was plotting with his girl Nazi friend to destroy the electrical grid of Baltimore. Like they had very ambitious plans.
What?
Yeah. So now he's in jail for the rest of his life. But
Oh my God.
it's a really fascinating story, and it's encompassed in my book, Global Death Cult. I cover everything. So
All right, I got an interview on that. Okay. A question on the number 9 for the Order of the Nine Angles. Did you find does that have any connection to the 9 channeled entities that Puharich was made? He became famous promoting these 9 that are also tied to some theosophical emanations of cosmic beings from the ascended masters that Blavatsky and her followers were also professing to be challenging, or does it have a different origin? Like, does it have a different origin story, the 9 angles?
it's a great question. And Myatt was asked that same question and answered it in writing, because he thought some people thought that his ideas, his 9 angles and his stuff was too similar to Aquino's material too, because Aquino talked about something in the 9, and so it's a power.
Well, Aquino had, because the Seth was one of the 9, I guess, Egyptian deities that Aquino made it as his lead pantheon, I suppose. So maybe he was wondering if that pantheon of Egyptian deities that involves Horus and Isis, and maybe they were asking if he was also using the same pantheon, or was he?
He was different. So according to the nine angles, and they have their own kind of like it's almost like a modified hexagram, unicursal hexagram that Crowley used, but it has nine angles. And the concept that Myatt wrote about in response to the question he was asked, that same question you just asked, is that the nine angles symbolize the seven planets, I guess, or something, or the seven known planets, and then an entry and exit into the acausal world. So it was supposed to be some kind of like almost like an astrotheological thing where these there in the writings, if you read enough, like I have, like I've read thousands of pages of Order of Nine Angles material, they use this term causal and acausal world. And what he means by causal is the causal material realm that we have, and then the acausal is some other.
Yeah, the permanent realm of being versus becoming. Yeah, right.
Exactly. He has a lot of interesting philosophical terms he brings in. But that Order of Nine Angles, the nine angles is the kind of moving of that energy from the acausal to the causal world. That's the way he explains it through planetary meanings. So it has like an astrology kind of connotation. I could find the reference. I'm pretty sure it's in my book.
Right. So they're dealing a lot with like planetary alignments to decide when they're going to do something.
100%. They're really interested in constellations and presencing entities from certain constellations at certain times of the year. So maybe like there's like the average satanic calendar, like it's kind of reflects the sophistication of the Order of Nine Angles, which has like a gaming board and all kinds of secret words. And they were very skilled at using cryptographic software and stuff. Like you'll see that in their writings. But code words and stuff like that. But they were just really sophisticated. What was that question? I just lost my train of thought.
Oh, I was just asking about their emphasis upon making decisions for what they're going to do based upon
right.
planetary celestial constellation.
Right. So their constellations are really important, and certain stars have certain things coming down, and they do presence things at night. So like you'll see these constellations are really important. It's really sophisticated. Like when I was reading, I was really impressed with the kind of intellectual rigor that they had, because he really wasn't. He tried to distinguish himself from Jewish esotericism. So instead of having the Kabbalah, he had the Tree of Word, and he had the seven tiered system. It's the septenary way. And so it's like the septenary way on the Tree of Word is very like Old English with OLDE.
That's what gets me is when you look at some of the initiatory tests that are expected, because if you're going to be brought into whether it's the order of like the integral fellowship or the Brotherhood of the Mahakakra or the Memphis Mizraim rite, if you're going to be introduced into these things, or the OT or the Argentum Astrum, there's going to be certain training that you have to go through, certain tests you have to pass, and there's certain things that have been made public about the types of geometrical and astrological challenges that are given to solve, like as tests. And when you look at the questions, in some cases, they're like, these are good questions. Like these are like, how do you, they're asking the students, like, how do you construct a pentagon using nothing but, circular action on a compass? How many different types of ways can you imagine constructing the Pythagorean theorem using no mathematics, and they're getting a certain type of high quality, this is what you would want to have in any good quality school, is to get the student accustomed to thinking in constructive discovery oriented terms, and to start thinking about like the different quantized ways of like, how is space and time quantized, and how does that express itself in crystallography, in platonic solids? There's like a limited, why is there 5 and not 6 or 4 platonic solids? Why is there specifically 5 that have the qualities of being a Platonic solid, and no more, no less. What does that say about the nature of the universe? How do you nest them together? So what's the most lawful way of nesting the cube, the dodecahedron, the icosahedron, the octahedron, and the tetrahedron? So what's the most lawful way to nest them together, and what type of angles do you get out of that? Good question for students. And it's a great, because it's discoverable. Why do we use the 360 as our most convenient, most perfect number to define degrees instead of 270 or 520 or some imaginary other number? Why is it 360? And there's a reason for that, but you'd have to go through these other steps, And so they get they're initiated into a place where they feel like they're doing proper, healthy mind work. And then they start bringing in this Hermetic mysticism where you start nudging or alchemically moving the pursuit of creative rigor and reason into service of the occult and in the service of magic. And they allow for this type of thinking if it is enslaved to the magic. Right. But for everybody else who's not going to be permitted to be initiated into one of these societies, then they get even less. They're just told to go through your conventional school system, memorize the formula. Don't even ask the question where the formula came from. Just memorize it, replicate it, pass the test, maybe get a job as a technician monkey that's gonna like a human machine pop out the correct standard model, theories and formulas to get a job done. And you might feel like you have knowledge, but you don't really, because you never even learned what the question was. You're a composite of a bunch of answers, you're a living human computer program. So, we're in a cage, a metaphysical cage, the vast majority. And
we're in a tesseract or something like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because it's just making me think of the whole O9A art ideology, which ties into this kind of dark enlightenment concepts with some of these kind of right-leaning tech figures. Because
what did you call it? The what did you call it?
The dark enlightenment.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah. Okay, dark enlightenment.
The dark enlightenment is kind of like what I like. Elon Musk had that hat. What did it say? Dark MAGA. So this dark enlightenment idea, I think it's promoted by I can't remember his name right now, but O9A, this kind of esoteric Nazism of their brand, is that they are going to be a new human. So like when you're talking within the last couple minutes about these kind of things, they had a distinction between their group, which was Homo Galacticus, which is a 300-year plan to get off of the Earth like Elon Musk and seed the galaxy and leave the mundanes behind. So all these people who are not part of this group are this kind of herd of boring mundane. It's very synonymous to Harry Potter's muggles. So it's like the mundanes are boring and you have to go, but you also have to engage in this. He uses this word that I've never heard in another environment, exiatic, which is kind of like external, or you're an extrovert, but through action, you will obtain Homo Galacticus, going up the septenary septenary path. But what really distincts and really caught my eye about the whole O9A is that I think at the fourth path, you have to select a Muggle candidate to turn into an Opfer, which is a German word for sacrifice. So that's what, when he's originally talking and writing with Michael Aquino, they're bickering about human sacrifice, and Myatt's saying, I believe in it 100%, and we should kill to get our aims. So that's it. And it ties in with a lot of secret deaths and weird suicides and a lot of stuff like this idea, because Myatt is, you're supposed to commit this horrible act and get away with it. So you, like, the literal doctrines within O9A is teaching you how to do it, how to think, how to select an offer, how to commit the crime, and how to get away with it. It's unbelievable.
But then, so why is Aquino, because Aquino does this too, why is he feigning, and in a public setting of all places, I'm guessing he's aware that this correspondence he has is going to be open to public consumption, or maybe he doesn't know. But why is he feigning otherwise? Like, why isn't he just openly embracing it? Because he's kind of like, I'm pretty sure he's aware. Most people know that he's okay with human sacrifice, isn't he? Like,
I
or
think so. As a Nazi and this guy who was at Wavelsburg and all this stuff.
yeah, like, you're with Anton LaVey's, his right hand man until you went and spun off your own thing, and yeah,
Got the
like,
ceremonial dagger and all this other stuff,
so it seems like a bit of a one of their weird dialectic jokes where I'm pretty sure both guys are probably
I
like
think so.
on the same page.
I think you're right. I think that Maya, when it's kind of like a cult contest. Like
Mm.
I'm more authentic than you. It's kind of like a snob war or something like that. But like he is saying, at least I admit it. But in my, you have to kind of get to the interplay because then he says to Aquino, I've heard that you guys do it anyway. So maybe Aquino has some kind of like
Yeah.
oath of silence where he's not supposed to divulge stuff. But it's
It's
so weird that these guys are really, really, really dark. Like
doesn't
mine is
Crowley
very dark.
even like talk about in his whatever the Book of Lies about how do you select your sacrifice and what are the degrees, the grades of the best to the least best kinds of sacrifice, from these human priest to a young boy who's the most pure and intelligent to, I don't know, a cat.
I
And then he's
wrote
like,
an
oh,
article about it because
yeah.
the topic comes up back when I was doing Crowley interviews.
Mm.
The topic comes up all the time, and I just wrote Crowley and Human Sacrifice based on references in his own books. So it's Magic in Theory and Practice, Liber 66, and you can just look at these, and then also the World's Tragedy. He talks about child sacrifice.
What's the name of that article?
It's Aleister Crowley and Human Sacrifice.
Okay. All right.
Like I tried to make it as clear as possible. Like this is it.
But
Like
he was just joking,
Yeah,
William.
they say that all the time, and it's symbolic and blah blah blah. He says this is what he says in Liber 66. This was probably not supposed to make it to the public, but he says, "Then again, the master shall speak as he will soft words, and with music and what else he will bring forward the victim. Also, he shall slay a young child upon the altar, and the blood shall cover the altar with the perfume as of roses. Then shall the master appear as he should appear in his glory." It's literally written in Liber 66. You
It's
can go
clearly a
read it.
joke. It's
Yeah.
hilarious, man. You can see this guy on a stand-up on stage, getting the crowds to laugh at this, right?
And then like his really like these are unspeakable. Like I can't even repeat this, but you can go read it. But like some of his diaries he thought were sacred, and it's written in the magical record of the B666, where he calls himself a god, but he's done acts that should have put him in jail for the rest of his life. I'll leave it at that. But it's in this document.
It's so bothersome. It's so bothersome.
They lie about everything on Crowley. So a lot of these occultists are told to obfuscate. And actually, in the O9A, they even have a doctrine called Labyrinthos Mythologicos, where you deliberately just BS the public about everything you're doing. You never tell the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then when you do tell the truth, people don't know what to make of the thing. You could say exactly what you're going to do, but because people are so acclimated to being lied to, that they'll hear it and not budge. Like, I'm going to slit all of your throats. Poison gas will enter this stadium, and you're going to like it and die. And people are like, yes, more.
One of the best things, one of the most interesting and incredible things. You want to talk about present esoteric Nazism and vampirism and stuff like that. One of the best things I would recommend to you and your listeners and anybody listening to this is watch Ed Sheeran's Bad Habits video. And it basically starts from sundown to sun up. So this is all doctrines within the order of nine angles, because you move around at night. And it basically depicts like the vampiric presence, the vampirism and presencing, which is like synonymous with possession of a member of the 09 angles and what they're supposed to do at night. It's incredible. And it's had like 500,000 views on YouTube, and the song's been played 1 billion times. So you want to talk about bullhorning.
Ed Sheeran seems like such a nice boy. Seems like such a nice, clean-cut young man. What? God.
Go watch his videos. Watch all the smiley faces. Look at his smiley face tattoos. I could probably say with certainty he's a initiate of something or other.
I had a friend of mine actually who just advised me this morning, and I watched it. I don't know if I should if I should. Well, I guess yeah. I will advise that other people watch it if they haven't already. Is David Bowie's last film or last music video?
Black Star.
Black Star. Yeah, I didn't know about that until literally 5 hours ago.
Starts off with a spaceman with a smiley face, right?
Yeah, a dead spaceman, yeah, with a smiley face, and the dead spaceman's skull that has this weird emblem on it becomes the sort of centerpiece of this occult 9-minute ritual, which is super hypnotic and very creatively done. Like the sound and visuals is like it's a fusion of different things that I've never experienced before in one song, and even like it's really friggin' hypnotic and super dark. And I thought that David Bowie was like not lying when he said he left black magic and he escaped from the Crowley grip. I was wrong. I was naive when I saw that video, and then discovering that video came out 2 days before he supposedly died. Now at this point, I don't even know if he was like a willing sacrifice, because that kind of language comes through the lyrics in his film about dying and then being reborn something new as a black star. That's like very clear in the lyrics. I don't even know. Did he willingly, was that part of the just the ritual sacrifice of the path he was on? Did he fake his death like Aquino did, or like Jack Parsons, or is it something else? I don't know. Is it a coincidence? But no, it's not a coincidence. That's a creepy freaking video.
It's incredible. There's a lot of deep esoteric stuff that I haven't really gotten through, but at the very end, he's almost like holding his Black Star Bible against crucified depictions of the three great religions. Like he's doing it in front of like like scarecrows or something. Like he is the Black Star. It's really something else. But like he's telling you it's a cult because there's a huge symbol of the moon obfuscating the sun there.
Yeah,
like he's symbol. It's
the black sun. Yeah, the sun is a star, right? It's the black sun. It's a worship of that. Totally.
He did that one album about Station to Station, which is about the Kabbalah, and he's like, I'm wearing the clothes of Crowley and Crowley's uniform. I think
that was in the 80s, though, right?
Yeah. It's interesting too because he was inspired. One of the interesting tie-ins to the occult is that Bowie was inspired to go to Berlin because of a guy who was friends with Crowley, whose name I can't remember. He's a famous writer, but lived in Berlin. And that was what inspired Bowie to go there.
Israel Regardie, or
no? Israel Regardie is one of them. One was more of like, I think he was a friend of Crowley, and no, I can't remember.
Oh, that matters.
He's a British guy.
So that's why David Bowie went to. Okay,
I'll find it.
There's so many. I mean, there's every bloody place you scratch in this realm. You got a Crowleyite. Freaking Steven Tyler, right? Was even admitting that he was doing Crowley sex magic to achieve fame for Aerosmith.
I didn't even know that.
No, there's.
I'm not surprised. They're all. I mean, there's jokes about like these guys in Hollywood. That's their religion, is like occultism, sex magic.
What about the is it Soundgarden or the black sun, black hole sun? Wants to come and take away the pain. Yeah, and then the guy ends up getting suicided, like the lead singer, like right after that. That's a weird one.
Here's from my book. I've got Bowie saying rock stars are fascist. If you want to talk about like this thing. This is from him in '76 in Playboy. He covered books. This is it. Let's see. Bowie covered the books of Israel Regardie, Arthur Wade, and Crowley mentor McGregor Mathers. He says rock stars are fascists. Adolf Hitler was one of the first rock stars. Playboy. How so? Think about it. Look at some of his films to see how he moved. I think he was quite as good as Jagger. Astounding. And boy, when he hit the stage, he worked an audience. Good God, he was no politician. He was a media artist. Wow.
On that note, McGregor Mathers, I was just informed that it was actually Kurt Metzger sent me this question. He's like, do you know which famous celebrity McGregor Mathers from the guy who initiated Crowley and founded the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, is related to. And I was like, no, I don't know. Can you guess, William? Who?
Mathers. No, I'm afraid though. Who is
Marshall Mathers, Eminem. Now,
get out.
Now that being said, I was
related to McGregor.
Well, so I googled it and I was like, well, Google AI is telling me there's it's only a name, it's not a real thing, that they're not a blood relation. And then Kurt wrote me back saying, well, actually, he used a different AI. He used Grok AI in this case, which gave him a different outcome and was citing from Eminem's mother's memoirs in 2009, where Eminem's mother is talking about her ex-husband or boyfriend, who is the father of Eminem, that's the Mather name, and how he actually took pride in when he discovered that he was tied family line, or at least in name, to McGregor Mathers, that he became a black magician and started doing black magic, which scared her, she says. So she says at least she was scared and life became hell as this guy became a black magician studying Crowley. But that being said, there is a direct connection there.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. These like bloodlines are really crazy. The person whose name I couldn't remember was Christopher Isherwood, and Isherwood was kind of like a memoirist or like a biographer. Friends with Crowley. And around Berlin, around the time of the Weimar Republic. But this is Bowie also made the acquaintance of Christopher Isherwood, an associate of Aleister Crowley when he lived in Berlin. It was due to the advice of Isherwood that Bowie would travel to Berlin in 1976, leaving his possessed swimming pool and his ferocious cocaine addiction in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So have you ever heard of his possessed swimming pool?
No.
Yeah, that's another story. Yeah, his swimming pool got possessed, and he had to try to exorcise some demon out of his swimming pool in Hollywood. It's literally very close to Sunset Boulevard is where he lived.
Aren't you what do you have to do? Like just pee in the pool or something? Or like,
see, I have this
or get a priest to pee in the pool? Or doesn't matter. It's okay. Don't.
No, I'll say don't Google. It's interesting because it ties into the swastika. He's talking about his
or you have to sacrifice a human in your pool.
It all happened in LA. There was something horrible permeating the air in those days. The stench of Manson and Sharon Tate murders. I was interested in the symbols of the Nazis. I think they had the most powerful set of symbols that I've ever seen in both the terms of political history. The swastika. They took a Buddhist symbol, the Eastern symbol of the sun, and turned it around so that it became the symbol of the dark that intrigued me about the Nazis. Who is the Magus? Who is the black magician? That's a direct quote of him. And then I'll tell the story for you for the pool. During his time in LA, Bowie, after practicing black magic in Los Angeles, he found it necessary to exercise his pool. His wife, Angie, at the time claimed that the pool was definitely, absolutely, no doubt about it, bubbling with an energy for which there was no possible explanation. She retells the story, explaining the house as a white cube. I thought it was too small to meet our needs. With his own eyes, David said, seeing him rising out of the water one night, Angie called Wally Elmark back from New York for help. David wanted an exorcism. A Greek Orthodox church in LA would have done it for us, but there was a priest available for such a service, the people had told me, but David wouldn't have it. No strangers allowed, he said. So there we stood, just with Wally's instructions and a few $100s worth of books, talismans, and assorted items from Hollywood's comprehensive selection of fine occult emporia. Then Bowie was primed and ready. Proper books and doodads were arranged in a big old fashioned lectern. The incantation began, and though I had no idea what was being said or what language was being said, I couldn't stop a weird cold feeling rising up in me as David droned on and on. So I guess they exercise it. I mean, it's a long kind of piece, but it's interesting. Yeah. Bowie completed the ritual. On the bottom of the pool, there was a large shadow or stain, which had not been there before the ritual began. It was in the shape of a beast of the underworld. It reminded me of those twisted, tormented gargoyles screaming silently from the spires of medieval cathedrals. It was ugly, shocking, and malevolent. It frightened me. Yeah. Of the exorcism, Bowie later said, I really walked into other worlds. Pretty weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy has totally sacrificed people. I don't envy whoever was sitting in that pool needing to help exercise it. And somehow you have to do something terribly demonic and evil in order to get rid of evil spirits. You know, like I noticed that in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn operation that was the Jack the Ripper murders. When you look at the writings of the key guy, Robert Donston Stevenson, or as he liked to be called, Rosalind Donston Stevenson. He was like an initiate of Bulwer Lytton, one of his high adepts and a friend of Charles Warren. They were friends when Warren was excavating Solomon's Temple back in the 1860s, and he was like a journalist for Pall Mall, Donston, and he was publishing writings on black magic. And even while the Ripper murders were happening, and he was sort of positioned in the Whitechapel sanatorium, at perfect position to like have direct walking contact to the locations where the women were murdered and positioned geometrically in a very, very specific way that's tied to the geometry of Solomon's Temple. He's writing about his obsession with evil demons and the need to protect himself from evil demons. But it's like, you're the evil demon, dude. like, and he's putting like, you know, ritual upside down triangles on his room when he's staying at this boarding house, and when he's like living with a couple of theosophists who are like part of the Blavatsky esoteric section of theosophy, Mabel Collins and Victoria Kramers. So Victoria Kramers and Mabel Collins are two of the highest witches in Blavatsky's esoteric coven, who end up living with this guy Donston Stevenson for like 2 years, running a cosmetics company right after the Jack the Ripper murders are done. And this girl Mabel Collins is giving interviews about this guy's obsession with protecting himself from demons. The other thing too is that he then becomes a Christian, translates the Gospels out of the original Greek and publishes it, and it's still like very well respected in theological seminaries as somehow a resource. Is this guy's particular translations of they're called the patristic Gospels that he does in 1893. But this woman Mabel Collins, she's the innovator of the psychic vampire mythos that George Sylvester Virake goes on and popularizes with his House of the Vampire, and then also this other woman, Victoria Kremers. Victoria Kremers becomes a co-founder with JCF Fuller and Crowley of the Argentum Astrum Lodge. And she is the woman who gets Israel Regardie, as she says, she saves him because he's getting too abused by Crowley. And she's the treasurer and personal secretary of Crowley. There's no pictures of her. She made sure to eliminate all pictures of her. Can't find them. But so she says that she saved Israel Regardie's life, which I don't know if that's true. But then you have all of these creatures, right? Second generation, they're tied in with Christopher Isherwood and Aldous Huxley, who's also partying with the OTO crowd, and the Crowleyites around Parsons and Hubbard. They're all like chilling in the same milieu in California. All of them.
Not very far. Christopher Isherwood and Huxley didn't live far from each other.
No.
They were like close to like the Brentwood, Hollywood area or something like that, like not far.
Right.
Isherwood's lover, like he was posting about Isherwood until recently. Like Isherwood was like, I think he had a very long life. I'll have to check.
Yeah, and I guess he must have had like a young lover, I guess, who's still.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Yeah. Another crazy.
I almost wanted to go visit him when I was doing this research, like 15 years ago. Isherwood died in 1986, so he actually lived till 81. But he had this guy, Don Bacardi was his name. Don Bacardi. Yeah, he's still among the living, still around.
Yeah, he liked him young. Yeah, there's another crazy connection here to the Manson thing and the Satanists. What was it? It was yeah, right, and Elon Musk. So grok, right? You know grokking? You've looked into the origins of the term?
Yeah, it's from Stranger from a Strange Land, right? Under Heinlein.
Yeah. And Heinlein's connection to the OTO.
Yeah, like right. I know he was in that kind of group with Hubbard and some of these other characters. But what's his connection? Do you know? He
was swapping wives with Hubbard. And Hubbard wrote about that actually, about how Heinlein
Interesting.
really he felt that was his way of male bonding, is to have his wife engage with other men who are part of the thing. And they were both writing for the same amazing stories, the same pulp fiction journals. So they were friends already from 1939. I think this is before Hubbard even gets involved with OTO. He was already like friends, swapping wives with this dude. And I think this is my time frame. This is definitely 39. They become really good friends, and then they maintain their friendship. And in he ends up, according to the New Republic. So they're kind of like mainstream Fabian, narrative makers, New Republic magazine. But they actually have this is where I first encountered this. And then Dave Gosselin put more data onto it for me afterwards. But New Republic even covers how Hubbard Parsons and Heinlein were into Crowleyism at the same time in the same place. So I would suspect that he was a secret member of the OTO, if not open. Maybe it's proven. I don't know. But then the other thing is that Manson, when he was in prison for like a few years, right? He was doing Scientology audits, right? Like 160 hours, but he only read 2 books for those years he was in prison. The 2 books he read, and then applied most to create his own cult when he got out, was Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, the Grokking book that Heinlein sets up on Mars with a pulp fiction writer, Martian leader who's like got all of these different talents. It's a Hubbard. It's an homage to L. Ron Hubbard, who creates his own cult on Mars, which does these water sharing ceremonies and orgies to unite the group into oneness, which is what Manson starts doing. And then also, to get special powers, because it's all about getting superpowers at the end of the day. That's why they do these things. So that's part of Manson's obsession, is to help garner and awaken superpowers from his family by doing grokking and water sharing ceremonies that he got from Heinlein. And Dianetics is the other book he's studying and applying to create his own cult, as he's become his own god man who can do this. And this group is tied to the Process Church, right? Which is another Scientology spin-off group in the UK, founded by 2 Scientologists that then, they start interfacing with the Manson operation, and the Church of Satan, where his guys, Robbie Beausoleil and a few others who are part of his family are participating in Church of Satan projects with, the Lucifer Rising Crowleyite filmmaker. What's his name?
Kenneth Anger.
Kenneth Anger, yeah. And Mick Jagger is also playing a role. And I think I don't know if he's playing the role of Lucifer. No, he's not playing the role of Lucifer. He's playing the role, he's providing the music for. Is that it? Lucifer Rising?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And these guys are engaged with, he's one of the guys, one of the people carrying up the Sharon Tate murders. Now, Sharon Tate is herself part of these occult workings. All of the people who are getting killed are also into black magic themselves, but for whatever reason, it was deemed that they would be the sacrifices. And Robert Heinlein is getting phone calls from members of the family asking him to protect them from the cops. When, that's it. It was the chick who tried to kill Gerald Ford that would have made Nelson Rockefeller the president.
Squeaky Fromm, was it Squeaky Fromm?
She had a funny name, yeah. Was it Squeaky? I don't know.
Whatever. I think there were 2 attempts, right? There were 2 attempts on him.
Yeah. And she was obsessively phone calling Robert Heinlein. And Heinlein met Sharon Tate. That's it. Also, a few weeks before Sharon Tate dies, they're at a film festival together in Rio, and they have a meeting together. He's meeting with a pregnant Sharon Tate who's about to die. So Robert Heinlein, on top of the fact that when Elon was asked which books influenced you the most in terms of making you the person you are, he cited Heinlein's the Moon is a Cruel Mistress, right, as his libertarian Ayn Randian gospel of a Ayn Rand libertarian Silicon Valley entrepreneur on the moon who leads this his followers to declare rebellion against the bureaucratic Earth Federation that they overthrow. Heinlein's into some He's doing some
See, I never knew
sensitive
all that stuff.
shamanic magic.
It was a small world. What was the guy who was their publisher? Was it Forrestal or Forrester? Yeah,
Campbell. There's John Campbell.
John
Was the
Campbell.
guy who published Dianetics, and Hubbard and Heinlein's works were being published in the John Campbell. Not the Hero with 1,000 Faces Campbell, a different Campbell. But he's the guy who made this. Campbell is the guy who made the careers of Isaac Asimov, of like, there's so many.
There was a small writing group.
Like Arthur C. Clarke also was part of this group, and his career was also made by John Campbell at that same journal. Yeah.
It's a small world. I mean, these guys have had an incredible impact. Like Heinlein would know. I think Manson named one of his kids Valentine after the chief or the main character of Stranger in a Strange Land, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Ooh.
Valentine Manson.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So
Elon named one of his kids after the hero of the Earth is the Moon is a Cruel Mistress.
Really? Wow.
Elon Musk son name Heinlein character.
Valentine Michael Manson was the daughter of Manson and Brunner. It was one of the Brunner was one of the people in the thing, and it was Squeaky Fromm. She was the one who took a shot at Ford. I don't know what date it was.
And then she was the one who got it in her head that Heinlein could protect her, and was, I don't know how she got his phone number, how she got that idea in her head, but very shady.
It's a strange that she would reach out to him, but the shooting she tried to get Ford was September 5th, 1975.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, it is the strangest history. It is so strange that literally tried to kill off the president. Matt, do you have time for a few questions? I got a few questions from the chat.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the name. Selden Lycurgus. I think that's it.
Selden Lycurgus. I've never heard that.
Selden. Here, I'm just going to Google that here quickly. And then the most recent kid that he had with Ashley St. Clair, who's a witch. She's a self-professed, she's a witch. Wow. Is Romulus, which is shady when you consider that in occult circles, the idea is that you have to, for any new civilization to be created, that a sibling must kill another sibling. And in the story, the way they look at what made Roman civilization viable was the ritual murder of Remus, wow. Right, who had to be killed by Romulus. So, yeah.
Wow, that's dark. That's super dark. Larry's asking, could you ask the guest what he knows about Blavatsky and her root race theory and the anti-Semitism in her theory? Do you have any comments on that?
Yes, I do. And the other thing is that I was wrong. It's not Heinlein who inspired Selden, the name Selden Lycurgus. That's from Foundation.
Right. Asimov's the Foundation series.
Asimov's Foundation. Yeah, that's the guy who recreates civilization, right? Is this so okay, yeah, these god people. So, yes, for the question from Larry Hillman, number one, the video that we just released does go through this, but what I would say is that her theory is so it's sort of created in response to the radical materialism of Darwinism, which supposedly, through the work of Thomas Huxley, promoted and popularized the idea that there is no soul, there is no God, there is no metaphysics. Everything can be explained by random mutations on the small and material changes that are measurable empirically, that account for all reality and why there is life and how life works and everything else. So, religion took a big hit because of the propaganda machine that popularized Darwin is the only way we're allowed to responsibly look scientifically upon all of creation, basically, not just life. And then Blavatsky provided the solution that ironically took in the worst elements of Darwinism, but then provided the spiritual, that filled the spiritual void that Darwinism had cut out of the heart of Christianity, that was causing people to go into nihilistic existential flights, which was the idea that, okay, there are these spirit beings, these higher ascended entities from the beyond that are guiding all of creation as we know it, and that channel with adepts like herself that can then have direct communion with these beings that give these special people powers of magic to bring in teacups and messages written on letterheads for, guiding her followers on what to do and how to think, which is where her like stanzas of Dizyan came out of, which she just made up out of thin air, kind of like Joseph Smith made up the Book of Mormon by saying, like, I got these Egyptian golden tablets that told me a new dispensation, but by the way, nobody knows where they are, and I forgot where I buried them.
Hold on, those are fake?
I'm sure somebody will find them somewhere. Right?
One of my favorites about him is the gold tablets. He said, hold the gold tablets. They're under this thing. You're not allowed to see them. Just feel their heft. So nobody really saw them. They just held something heavy. Like, it's just too much.
What a joke. It's gross. So anyway, but
he was a magician too. Like, that's totally part of the magic tradition.
Yeah, and his parents were tied to mesmerism and magic anyway, it's all spiritualism. Yeah. And thus fakery galore. But so the root race theories, she basically said, okay, the origins of species and the origins of human beings and why we are can be accounted for by this massive space opera she came up with, which posited that all of existence can be divided into 7 phases, of which we are at the end point of the 4th phase, right? That she said, okay, and again, it's all made up stuff. But she basically said, early on we had, I think it was the Hyperborean entities introduced onto the Earth area from the beyond that had no matter to them, and that was the first. And then there was a subdivision of 7 phases of evolution of these Hyperboreans that were moving inexorably towards the new phase where the Lemurians appeared, as partially materialized, partially immaterialized entities that lived on some continent, which some presumed was, they're off the coast of Africa, between, I think, India and Africa. And the reason why they said that was theirs because they were like, on one coast there's lemurs, on the other coast there's lemurs. So there must be this invisible land bridge, which isn't there anymore, called Lemuria, which was posited by some British, creative writer in the 1820s as this invisible, like, sunken landmass, which, again, it's make-believe stuff. But so these Lemurians were also divided into 7 phases of cycles of perfectibility, which each one is the cleansing of the perfectibility is still animated by Darwinian laws of might makes right and survival of the fittest. So the more fit beings that can destroy their weaker beings and thus have more sex, procreate more, be more spiritual, is which he kind of puts into a big stew, is what is animating the mechanism behind the elimination of the unfit iterations. And then you had the Atlanteans. I think I skipped a root race there somewhere. But anyway, we're currently in sort of the Atlantean age, which seeded these several root races. We're in the sort of 5th, we're on the edge of the 4th, going into the 5th now, apparently, whereby the new species is going to be the most perfected that's ever been, and that will emerge to render obsolete the earlier root races. And then she said that'll be the Aryan Teutonic bloodlines, are the conduits of the most perfect, that are the least tainted, that are the most, that have the most angelic Venusian essence, because it was these Venusian super entities that were the architects, the absolute gods overseeing her ascended masters, like Master Moria, Kutumei, and she made up Saint Germain was another one. She just, again, it's n'importe quoi, like they say in French, and overseeing those ascended masters are these Venusian. I think there's 3 of them. These Venusian cosmic entities, which is another way of saying Lucifer, because Venus is the morning star. It is Lucifer. It's the rising star. It's the star that sets, thus associated with light and with darkness. It's the combination of the opposites. It's the dark star. It's basically, it's what Bowie was worshiping. It's Lucifer. So anyway, that's the thing that's gonna what the essence of these Venusian beings is the most pronounced within the Aryan and Teutonic archetypes, or not archetypes, physiotypes in her mind. And whereas the other, like, as she says, the Bushmen, the black people, the yellow people are more shaped not by ascended, essences of the gods. They're more contaminated with hybrid mutants that were the effect of the interbreeding between Atlanteans and monkeys, pretty much, or proto-humans, that caused our natural psychic powers to be diminished, and that caused false mythologies to be imagined that are immature, like Christianity and other things that are the consequence of the loss of our psychic powers, that the higher beings who can break free of the traditional moral values and the governing myths, they have the will to power to then break free, and then to cleanse the unfit who are unwilling to break free of their existence, and to thus create a new human species in California. As she said, it has to be California.
Did
that
she
merges
really?
the East with the West in the most sort of esoteric, superstitious versions of all cultures, that will then recreate this new species, which is, I think, at the heart of the soul of transhumanism and the Silicon Valley cult.
Did she really say California?
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I must have pulled something out. I must have pulled.
Is it my fault? It might be my fault.
I don't know. No, I don't know.
It might be my computer. Damn it! Wait a minute.
Can you hear me now? I think it's on my side. I see your mic is working.
Speakers.
Can you guys hear us, guys?
My sound card has been giving me trouble. I'm concerned that it might be my sound card.
Anyway, I can hear. I can hear you.
You can hear me though.
Yes,
you can hear me. All right, so maybe we could do it this way. I could just talk, and I can't hear you.
Okay.
So maybe you if you pull up questions. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, sure. Let's try this out. Never done this before.
Let's see.
Let's
see. How about this?
Okay. Yes.
Didn't Blavatsky say some young?
And didn't Blavatsky say some young Indian guy was like their guru, but he later deflected? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's she did. Her
Krishnamurti
teacher.
Krishnamurti.
Yeah, Krishnamurti. Who unfortunately I think got tired of getting ass raped by what's his name? Annie Besant's traveling partner there, the gay priest, mystic. I was gonna what's his name? Yeah, that's Krishnamurti right there. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, dashing young Indian kid, and yeah, clearly molested. And she was, yeah, that's him. That's the what's his name there? Leadbeater. Yeah, I'm just beating something there. Charles Webster Leadbeater. Really abusive creature. So Krishnamurti he went renegade right when he was being celebrated as his coming out party. He's being groomed for like a decade to be the guy, to be the Maitreya. And then he's like, no, actually, I don't want to do this anymore. And he went renegade. And it was a big embarrassment for Annie Besant and Leadbeater. And Crowley was actually kind of happy because he was like, yeah, it's me. I'm the world teacher. I told you it wasn't him. And he had his own followers from there's like this Saturnian OTO cult of a lot of theosophists who broke away and were supporting Crowley as being the real world teacher. So there was this fight over who's going to be the world teacher. Anyway, but at the same time, like people say that because he became neighbors and close friends with Aldous Huxley in California, and he had his own school that he kept going in California. It was the Happy Valley School. Anyway.
It was in Ojai. It's in Ojai, California.
I wish I could hear you, dude. I know you're saying good things. It sucks.
Let's do this.
And anyway, he acted like he broke free, but then he still had the Annie Besant Academy within the Happy Valley School. So he still paid homage to his former mistress handler Besant, even after he so-called left that milieu. So I suspect that he was always still maintaining perhaps a secret masterhood, like as if he was Maitreya, but maybe played a game on us. And another guy too is Joseph. Was it Joseph Campbell or John Campbell? The Hero with 1,000 Faces guy was also in his youth a student of Jiddu Krishnamurti, when Krishnamurti still had a training ground at a European mansion donated by some royal. And so, yeah, Campbell, who becomes a leading founder and an assistant to Carl Jung at Eranos at Ascona and Monte Rita in Switzerland in the 1930s. That's what he's doing, right? When he's learning how to do witchcraft, basically shamanic witchcraft, and from Jung, the great master. And he later on goes on to become a leading figure out of the Esalen spin-off group at SRI with the Changing Images of Man operation. So Campbell's working with Willis Harman to define how do you create a new human identity based on basically, paganism. Okay. And then he's also advising George Lucas on how to craft new myths, new sacred stories to shape the American identity for the 21st century and beyond. So that goes into formulating the basis of Star Wars. Who's the theosophist that gave all the speeches and says he was the real shot caller? The thing with the theosophists, if you know, actually, do you know, William, the answer to this question? Okay. The thing with I don't know either, but the thing with the theosophists is that, like with all Rosicrucian cults, is that they create splinter groups really easily because everybody is convinced that they're the Messiah. They're the prophet because they became the isthmus. They became they had their clairvoyant experience of battling the guardian at their threshold. They internalized their own internal darkness. They came out of it. They've survived. They cut the throat. They had the sex with the thing. They killed the other thing. They did all of the stuff that they were supposed to do. And now they've done their drugs. They've passed through the threshold, and now they're gods. And when you're a god, you're not going to abide by what somebody else says about the gods. They become very easily convinced with their new charisma, like what Charles Manson had. William Quan Judge. Yeah, right. Well, he had his own breakaway thing in America, right? So he had the Aryan theosophist sect in the United States, and then you had Colonel Olcott, who stuck with Annie Besant, and they had their own thing, and then you had. Oh, there's so many groups, and anyway, they're all splintering off like a hydra, creating their own. Manly P. Hall, I don't see him calling shots. Manly P. Hall's a high level guru and player in the ritual. He's not a good guy. His work is useful as a encyclopedic wise, but I don't think he's honest. Hey, good guess. Somebody like what I said. That's cool. All right,
guys, check it out. Maybe you can. Let's see. People check out Canadian Patriot.
You talk to the audience now.
Okay.
It's Matthew. I'm going to talk about what I'm doing. That's Canadian Patriot. Yeah. So that's my website. That's my website, CanadianPatriot.org. and I run that with Cynthia, and that's our film. Yep. Go watch our film. It's currently $5 to watch on Substack or on that. Well, the links are there, and the book is there too on the upper right. Yeah, that's our book. And people can buy the book. It's 200 pages, special report. It's a bigger thing with a hardcover version for collectors with full color, and then we got a black and white, also nice soft cover thing available on Amazon or PDFs, and that's there too, with a lot more information than we went through today. And Substack, great. Substack is our bread and butter. Cynthia's got one. I got one. That's mine right there. MatthewEhret.substack.com. And it's me and RT the other day. That was a fun show. That's it. That's what we do.
Matthew, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Great show, great book and video. Until next time, everybody, thanks. We had 200 live listeners, so really appreciate that. Check out, I'll put links to the book, the show, the Substack, and everything like that. Thank you all very much for listening, and check out his material and stuff like that. Matt Ehret, thank you.
Okay, bye everybody.